is great to see you again. As you know, one of my favorite things to study about with you is animals and nature and where animals are in nature and what they're doing. So we're going to do more of that today. But before we get to that, we have something else to learn about first. There's something that scientists talk a lot about, and it's called forces. Kind of a big word, but it's a pretty simple idea that I'm pretty sure you're familiar with. So a force can be a push. A push is away from us. So do this with me. Get your hands in front of you and push them away. There you go. That was a push. What do you think the other thing might be? The opposite of a push would be a pull. And a pull is something towards you. So if you stretch your arms out and bring it in towards you, that's a pull. So a push and a pull. It's that simple. But before we get to the animals outside to see how they're using pushes and pulls, we have to think about another question that scientists ask about, and that is, what's your evidence? So if you say to me, that was a push, I would have to say to you, what's your evidence that that was a push? So let's do a little example. If I have a ball, and I take the ball, and I roll it. Pretty simple. Was that a push or a pull? What's your evidence? You're probably thinking that when I rolled the ball away from me, I was pushing it. And you're right, that was a push. And your evidence could be as simple as you saw the ball move. So if you see something move, that's evidence that there was a push or a pull. There was a force that happened. Another way that we might have evidence that a push or a pull happened is that we would feel it in our bodies. So let's try a little experiment with that. Take your two hands, put them together, and press. Press harder. Press really hard, actually. Oh my gosh. As I'm pressing my hands together, I'm not seeing anything move. Are you? Are you pressing your hands together? Probably not seeing a lot move, but maybe you're feeling something in your body. Maybe you're feeling it in your hands or your wrists, maybe even all the way up in your shoulders. So do it one more time and press even harder. If you can feel something in your body, that's evidence that you're pushing your hands together. All right, let's try it for a pull. Take one hand, face it up. The other hand, face down, kind of like a sandwich. Hook your fingers right into each other, and then try and tug them apart. Ooh, as I tug them apart, I feel a pull. I feel them going away from each other, and I can feel it in lots of places in my body depending on how hard I pull. So there you go, friends. A push is away, a pull is towards. Our evidence can be that we saw something move or we felt something in our body. So let's do a pause here and have you watch some really cool videos about some animals in nature that are using pushes and pulls. And then we'll get back together and talk about evidence, and we'll set up some experiments. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit. Hey, welcome back. Pretty cool videos, right? So I'm wondering if you noticed any pushes and pulls in any of those videos. Maybe there was something the chimpanzee was doing with their hand when they went down and then back up. Maybe there was something that you noticed with the toad trying to catch the fly. Probably never thought before about if your tongue was something that you did pushes and pulls with, but we sure saw some in that video. So lots of pushes and pulls were happening, and my question to you, friends, is what is your evidence that there was a push or a pull? If you saw any of those things happening, if you saw a stick moving down into the ground and then moving back up, you have evidence of a push and then a pull. Same thing with the frog's tongue, and maybe you noticed the squirrel doing some pushes and pulls as they were burying their nuts. And who else did you see out there today on your adventure? Oh yeah, you saw a weaver bird. And so maybe you could imagine a long piece of grass in your beak if you were a bird, and then go ahead and do that. Pretend you have a piece of grass in your mouth and try weaving with that there. So maybe your head's going to go up and over, back and forth. Are you noticing any pushes or pulls happening in there? Try it a few times. So what we're going to do now is we're going to imagine ourselves being some of these animals. And we're going to do some experiments to see if we can feel a push or a pull happening anywhere in our body when we're becoming either a dung beetle, that's correct, or a squirrel, or a weaver bird. So let's start with the dung beetle. What you're going to need for that is a ball. That's it. You need some kind of a ball to represent a ball of dung. Maybe it's a golf ball. Maybe it's a little round plastic soccer ball. Maybe it's an actual soccer ball that's a little bit bigger than my little round one here, my little toy one. Maybe you have something even a little bit bigger than a soccer ball. Maybe you have a basketball, and maybe you would use that. Oh, maybe you have a tennis ball or a baseball. There's all kinds of balls. Whatever you have will work. Maybe you even have a round rock, and you could use that. You might go outside and get some dirt and some water and make a mud ball, and you could try using that too. If you happen to have a big old yoga ball somewhere in your house, then that's a pretty fun one to use because it's a little bit more in the same proportion, we would say, of the beetle to his ball of dung and the size of you to what is representing your ball of dung. So your challenge is to try and move your ball of dung from one place to another. Maybe it's going to go from the end of the rug to the other side of the rug. Maybe you have a hallway in your house and you're going to try and move your ball of dung, whether it's a yoga ball or a basketball or even just a little golf ball or ping pong ball, whatever you have, try to move it a certain distance. If what you want to use is some kind of a small ball instead of one of the bigger ones, then you can set up just a little piece of cardboard or something, or a tabletop or part of your rug, and set that up as your place to experiment and use your fingers instead of your arms and your legs. Be a little tricky to figure out which fingers are going to be the front legs and which are going to be the back legs and quite how they're going to move this. But you give it a try. Have fun with it, experiment, see what happens. I would love to hear some of your results. The question that you are exploring is, when I'm a dung beetle and I'm moving a ball of dung, am I using pushes or pulls or both? And what's my evidence? Where do I feel it in my body? You might even have a spot outside in your yard that's kind of flat, and you could do this right out there. How fun would that be? So, good luck becoming a dung beetle. Think about how the dung beetle had its front legs and its back legs. Which ones were on the ground and which ones were on the ball of dung. If you need to go back and look at the video again, do that. So check that out, experiment with that, and when you've done that, then you can move on to one of the other animals. Hey friends, so here we are outside with our giant ball of dung, or maybe your smaller ball of dung that you made or you found around your house. And what you want to do, if you come outside, is make sure you have a nice flat spot like what I'm on right here. Don't use a slope like what's behind me, because if you do that, we're not talking about pushes and pulls anymore. We're starting to talk about something else called gravity, and we're going to leave that for another day. So find a nice level spot. Remember the big challenge if you can. The front paws are on the ground, back legs up on that ball. See if you can move it across this flat yard. Good luck. Hey friends, one of the other animals from the video that we can imagine being and imagine doing something like what they were doing to find out if they were pushing or pulling and what our evidence is the weaver bird. So, a couple of very simple things that you would need to run that experiment. One is a shoelace. If you don't have a shoelace, a piece of string or yarn can work. The great thing about a shoelace is the end of it is a little bit held together there. Sometimes string starts to unravel, but you can tie a little knot in it if you need to. So, a shoelace or a piece of string or yarn. And then you just need some paper. Or if you happen to have something like this in your house, that'll work. If not, paper is going to work totally fine. If you have a hole punch, it's handy. If you don't worry. So if you have something like this, I'm just going to show you with this one because since there's holes, it makes it a little easier to understand what I'm saying. What you want to do is you want to take your shoelace or your string and you want to put it through a hole. I think I'm going to go this direction so I don't drop it. And then I'm going to tug it in one direction and then I'm going to come up. I'm going to tug it in that direction and then I'm going to go down. Pull in that direction. So as I'm doing this, am I pushing or am I pulling or am I doing both? What's my evidence? Where do I feel it in my body? Now there's a good chance you don't have something like this plastic thing at your house. That's okay. Because if you have paper, just a piece of scrap paper and a hole punch, you can make a few holes in your paper. Maybe you make a little design, maybe you just make a straight line like I did. And then you can do the same thing with your shoelace or your piece of string or yarn. So I put it in the hole in one direction. Whoops, went all the way through. Let's try again. I put it in the hole in one direction and in the other. And then in the other. Am I pushing? Or am I pulling? Or am I doing both? What's my evidence? Where do I feel it in my body? And you know what, friends? If you don't have a hole punch, let me show you this. It's kind of cool about paper. If you have paper that's thin enough, that's not a heavyweight one, and if you happen to have a shoelace that has that stiffer point, watch this. I can poke a hole right through the paper. And I did not even need a hole punch. So I brought it through in that one direction, and now I'm going to try it in the other. And I'm going to tug it through this way. Am I pushing? Or am I pulling? Or am I doing both? What's my evidence? Where do I feel it in my body? There also might be some things out in nature that you could use instead of a piece of paper. So if you want to head outdoors for being a weaver bird, go ahead and give it a try. Good luck. Hey friends, for being a weaver bird, don't forget your shoelace or whatever string you're using. And maybe you'll just find a leaf on the ground. And I wonder if I can try being a weaver bird and weaving by putting my string up and down through my leaf. Am I pushing or pulling? What's my evidence? Hey friends, here we are at the third and final animal that I'm going to do with you. It's a squirrel, but you might have some ideas about how to be a chimpanzee using a stick to get ants or termites out of the ground, or you might have an idea of how to be a toad trying to catch a fly with your tongue. I'm going to leave those up to you. But for our final one that I will do with you about the squirrel, you will only need very simple materials again, just some natural objects. You might have some acorns or some sunflower seeds. You might even just have some rocks. It can be anything at all, but it needs to be something natural because you're going to be trying to bury these and then dig them up again, just like the squirrel did, to figure out if a squirrel was using pushes or pulls or both, and what your evidence is. Where in your body do you feel the force of a push or a pull when you're digging and burying or digging up again any objects that a squirrel might be hiding? So the reason I say natural objects is if you hide some plastic things out there and forget about them, or you can't find them again, because that seriously happens to squirrels sometimes. They bury something and then they can't find it. And if what you don't find is an acorn that you buried, it's not a problem. Another animal might eat it, or it might even turn into an oak tree. If you happen to bury a small rock and you forget where that is, that's not a problem either, because it's from nature. But if you bury something that's plastic, it would be leaving trash out in the woods or in the meadows, and we don't want to do that. So you can find a handful of natural things in your house maybe, or you just head straight outside to become the squirrel and collect your things while you're out there. All right, give it a try and we'll check back in at the end. Hey friends, so for being a squirrel, so many great options. Just go out into your yard. There might be a place right in your yard or near the edge of the garden, or where I am, at the edge of the woods. Squirrels love to be around trees. So let's take a look at how a squirrel might be using pushes and pulls to bury and find nuts. So let's go ahead and just use a couple fingers for our little squirrel paw and try digging a hole. Am I pushing or pulling or both? There, I've got a spot. Now I'm going to pat it down and hide my little nut. Remember friends, if you don't have acorns, maybe you're going to hide a little rock or a piece of bark, something natural, and then come back. Try digging like a squirrel would. Am I pushing or pulling? What is my evidence and what happened to my acorn? There it is. Were you pushing or pulling? What's your evidence? Hey friends, thanks so much for joining me today to learn about pushes and pulls and how animals use them in nature all the time. So I hope that by becoming a dung beetle and a weaver bird and a little gray squirrel, you felt where pushes and pulls happen in your body, and that gave you some evidence. Maybe you felt your strong legs pushing the ball of dung away from you. Maybe you felt your strong front legs when you were a dung beetle pushing against the ground. The ground didn't move, but I sure was pushing hard against it to keep my body up when I was trying to move that big yoga ball. Maybe what you felt was something a lot more delicate, the way the weaver bird works. But it was pushing and pulling that grass through the netting. Anyways, there's so much happening out there. I also want to invite you to take a walk around your yard. What animals do you see out there today? Probably not a chimpanzee, but maybe some of the others. And are they pushing or are they pulling? You would be able to say that you have evidence of seeing something move if you saw an animal doing some pushing or pulling out in your yard today. Maybe it's as big as a robin, maybe it's as tiny as an ant, maybe it's as wild as a salamander, or maybe it's your pet dog or cat. Good luck with any of it, have fun, and I'll see you later. Bye friends. If you have enjoyed this video, please visit our website to learn more about what we do and consider making a donation.